Welcome to the Parts Girl podcast, powered by Parts Edge with Kaylee Felio. Conversations that will transform the way we do business. Gain insight into the wins and struggles from automotive professionals.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Parts Girl podcast. I'm very excited to be interviewing Tom Kline today. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's so cool how I'm meeting everyone because, I feel like we met on LinkedIn probably, and then we got to meet in person, and it's just so cool how this LinkedIn stuff works.
Fun. It's fun. You get a variety of everybody, and you get to see all the different things, not only in the car business, but that everybody, works on, which is incredible. I often say to my wife, it's hard to believe somebody can make a living doing blank, right?
That's very true. There's so much opportunity in the car business. So for those that don't know who you are and, what you do, just give us a little background on like how you got to where you are, what you're doing now, and we'll go from there.
Sure. My family's been in the car business almost 100 years. So my grandfather started in 1925. My father was in the business. My brother was in the business. My uncle was in the business. And my father started a family dealership in 1964. I was born in 65. The short version, I worked there for 30 years, not including sweeping the lots as a lot attendant during the summer. And we sold the stores in 2019. And after that, I opened my consulting business. And what I do is I'm a risk mitigation consultant. So I like to say that running a dealership is like trying to tuck an octopus into bed. The tentacles keep falling out. That's what it feels like to run a dealership. And so I help keep the tentacles tucked in and minimize the risk for the dealer.
Oh, I really like that. That's a great way of putting it because, there is so much going on in the dealership, and firsthand, that if you're not managing things, the octopus is like all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're flopping out everywhere.
Totally. I have a cool question. So if you could describe yourself, just in one word, how would you describe yourself?
It's a good question. I guess I would say I'm a positive guy.
I could totally see that. You're totally a positive person.
Especially in business, I think it's important to be positive because, especially with what I do, because I'm constantly dealing with problems. Mm-hmm. People call me all the time with problems. I do expert witness work, as an example, to defend dealerships. So that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I work. Mm-hmm. So it's important to have a good attitude.
Yeah, because that can suck a lot out of you to deal with all that negativity. How has it been switching from the dealer world to the vendor side? How has that been for you?
It's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot. So one thing about being at a dealership is I was chained to my desk for 30 years. So I kiddingly and not kiddingly told my direct report employees, I said that if it looks like I'm going to die, to please drag my body out into the sun so the last thing I see was not my desk. So I'm only too happy to be kind of out from that side and seeing other things and seeing dealerships and how they do things in different places and, different cultures and really how other people put things together. So that part's been really fun.
Right. I was talking to someone not too long ago, and I remember he worked at a dealership and now he's on the vendor side. And I remember him saying, I thought they were all like you get, it depends on the area and they're just not all the same.
They are not all the same. I mean, and, different cities, different towns, different, how the dealers are connected to their community. It really, in big cities, it's different because the politics are different and the customers are different and their desire for vehicles is different, right? So, one dealership may stock more trucks, one may stock more cars, right? It just depends on the mix of customers that they have and how they go about their business.
Absolutely. Is there a hard lesson that you've learned recently or even just in your career that you could share that might help someone?
I would say yes. I would say, especially when having difficult conversations, It's important to do that without having tone in your voice.
Oh, okay.
You can tell somebody that if they don't change, you're going to fire them. But if you have tone in your voice, then they become more emotional. They're going to be emotional anyway with it, but you can create a better atmosphere and an easier way to communicate if you don't have tone. In other words, if I have tone in my voice, it's harder to listen to the message. You may start getting defensive and upset about how I'm speaking to you instead of the message that I'm trying to get across.
That totally makes sense, especially as like managing employees and delivering messages. I mean, even delivering messages to your clients. The tone is very important.
If you speak quietly, they're going to take the information differently. If you're speaking fast versus slow, and how emotional are you with there's a lot of things to consider when you're trying to be a good communicator. And communication, of course, at a dealership is of critical importance because it's all about the people. So how you communicate with them, the way you communicate with them, the modality and the speed, and are you in a hurry? Does that make them feel unimportant if you're speaking quickly? If you don't have time, all those things are really important.
Yeah. So that's something you learned like earlier on. Did you have is that something you realized you had tone, like you were using the right tone, or is that?
Well, I think I would say I learned that lesson early on, mostly because I dealt with lots of difficult problems, right? And so when you're trying to deal with a very upset customer who just sued you, or somebody who can't make their payment, or somebody whose car has been repossessed, or whatever the case may be, it's easier to come to a solution if you can say something that might be upsetting to them. They can hear the message, and then you can try to create a solution from a shared understanding. Until you have that shared understanding, whether it's a customer or employee or whatever, you're not getting anywhere. You're just going to spin your wheels. And so early on, in terms of dealing with customer problems or employee problems or whatever the problem was during that communication period, I think that was an important thing to learn.
Yeah, that's a good thing to learn. Absolutely. And a good thing to bring up, because I think a lot of people starting out, especially in management, that's something that I think has struggled a lot with. So yeah. Do you have any mentors or someone that you can credit, just how you got to where you are now?
My brother.
Aw.
I was in the business with my brother. My brother is 7 years older than I am, and he taught me the business.
Wow.
I would say he gets all the...
That's really special. And just do you have any other siblings, or is it just you two?
I have a middle brother who's an architect.
Okay, so no car business at all.
No car.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And then, so you were obviously in it with your dad too, right? Your dad was involved, but you and your brother were the closest as far as the business goes. Oh, that's really cool. And what's your brother doing now?
He's doing consulting work too. Actually, he's doing consulting for the new owners of the store.
Oh, that's very important. Yeah. Is he on LinkedIn? Can we find him there? No.
He's not on LinkedIn.
Oh.
He's not on Facebook. He's not on Instagram.
He hasn't jumped on that yet.
He is not on social media.
Okay, so this is a fun, kind of interesting question. Is there anything that you feel like you're talking about or thinking about that not a lot of people are just noticing or feeling that's important? Is there something that you feel super important right now and you're like, why aren't you guys seeing this?
There's a lot of things, Kaylee, that I feel are important that a lot of people aren't seeing.
You gotta pick
Let me give you a top two or three.
Or maybe, okay, I'll let you do two. We'll do two.
Okay, two. Number one, with the recent banking crisis, I would encourage all the dealers to check their floor plan agreements, right? The floor plan agreement is the agreement they have with the bank that when you buy a new car, that's put on a bank line of credit. That's what a floor plan agreement is. And the reason I want them to check that is I want them to see if they have what's called an acceleration clause. So acceleration clause is the bank, for no reason, can pick up the phone and say, we're pulling your credit line. We're out of the credit line business. Just this week, Capital One stopped floor plan.
Oh.
And that was a headline. I've been talking about this for weeks now, but dealers should negotiate a 12-month or 36-month, whenever they can negotiate out, so that the bank is committed to their floor plan for at least 12 months. The reason I say 12 months is a minimum is you want to be able to place that with a different bank, and you want to have plenty of time to do it. You don't want to get a phone call that says you have to replace your bank within 30 days. You can't negotiate a deal. When they say we're calling your line, they mean right then that day. And so please write us a check for 12 million, 15 million, whatever it is, right? So that is a massive problem that can happen. Now, does it happen very often? Doesn't happen necessarily very often, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And that's the problem. I don't want dealers to be in a position that is an issue. And even when I asked, some dealers said, well, do you have a negotiated time period? They said, yes. They sent me the agreement. I read the agreement. They did not have the 12 months.
What is that called they need to look for?
An acceleration.
Okay, acceleration clause.
Number 2, I would say June 9th is coming, and the new Gramm-Leach-Bliley safeguard rules have to be met. I understand there is going to be increased enforcement by the Federal Trade Commission for these rules. This is about safeguarding data, customer data. That's what the Gramm-Leach-Bliley is about. And there are a lot of dealers who I meet who are like, is that a real thing? And I'm like, yes, it's a real thing. This is something you have to comply with. And it's kind of a pain in the neck to comply with. The rules are broad and wide and deep. And it's not just something you can't just buy an app. Dealers, let me just buy the app and I'll be compliant. That's just not how this one works. There are apps that help, but that's not going to make you 100% compliant. I'd say there's SaaS solutions that'll get them 40% of the way there, I'd say. But the other 60% is good old-fashioned shoe leather. You've just got to do the work and get it done. Those are the top 2 things that I'm working on and hearing about in the marketplace.
Yeah. And not a lot of people are paying that much attention to it. So that's your job, to get the word out. And hopefully people listening will want to talk to you more about it. What's one of the hardest parts about selling what you do?
Well, as far as I know, I'm the only guy doing risk mitigation for dealerships. So the first thing is having them understand what it means and kind of the broad outlines of making sure that we can tuck the tentacles in. And, you have to educate your way through that. So getting that message out on why that's important, I think requires a megaphone. So I'm broadcasting as loudly.
I think that when you are in a space that not a lot of people are doing, like similar to Parts Edge, not a lot of people are doing it, people aren't thinking about it as much because there aren't 10 other vendors that are doing it. So it makes you a little bit niche and, not front of mind. So it's, you have to keep doing these things to get the word out. Like, hey, this is important, guys. Yeah.
Right. It's very niche, right? I mean, it's very, very niche.
Yeah. No, and I think
you're doing
and I think you're doing a great job because based on just the people that you have helped, and just all the information that you put out there to help without even having to work with you is very helpful. So
thank you. I try.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You just got to get it out there. So this one's a fun, kind of interesting question. If you could go back to your younger self, I don't know, maybe 18 or even younger, is there anything that you would tell yourself, not change, because we don't want to change things, just anything that you're like, hey, you should listen to this?
Yeah. Listen to your intuition.
Uh-huh.
Your intuition. We used to tease my father, still do, that he has sometimes my father's 95 now, by the way. And sometimes he'll be sitting there and his lips will be moving and he'll be talking to himself. And so we always say, are the little men talking to you? And he'd say, the little men inside. And so he has little men, you have little women, I have little men. And so I think it's important to listen to those little people who are in your head telling you things. And it's important to pay attention. It's like saying, pay attention to your gut. Listen to your intuition because it has a lot to say.
It really does. I also struggle kind of with that still because there's the other side. They go back and forth. They're arguing. So it's like, which one do you listen to? But I guess it boils down to your gut. Like you're listening, but then you're like, okay, what is my gut saying? Or your intuition.
That's right.
Yeah.
And right now your gut is your +1 in your gut right now.
Yeah, so I've got lots of voices going on.
Yes, you certainly do. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really, really cool experience. I'm lucky and fortunate to get to do it twice. So, and that's it. I'm only doing it twice. I don't...
The factory's the
Yeah, it's done. Okay, this one's a fun one that I like to ask people too. If you could compare yourself to an animal, what animal would you compare yourself to and why?
Well, I'd have to go with the octopus at the moment. And the reason I'd have to go with the octopus, they're smart. I'd like to think of myself as at least above average.
Yeah.
They can camouflage themselves and blend in when necessary. They're able to react quickly and maneuver quickly. So I'm gonna go with the octopus for today.
I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, and it can change too, because they asked me the question back the other day, and then I was like, wait, why did I say that? I don't feel like that's what I am, because it changes.
You can change your animal anytime you want.
Exactly. You can be whatever animal you want. What do you love most about what you're doing with your consulting business?
I get to get out and meet people, and I get to see their dealerships. I get something new every day. You know, as a solo guy, I'm certainly working on something different every day. I like that variety.
It is really good. Okay, let's see. Last question. Oh, this is a fun one. I feel like it's my signature closing question. What is, since we're in the car business, you have a favorite car, or do you want to share what your daily driver is? Or both. You could share both.
I think my favorite car would be the Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors.
Oh, yeah, that's fancy.
You know, yeah. I think that that's just cool, the way the doors open. That's just cool.
That is very cool. Lincoln is very class, though. Like, they do a great job with how they design their cars.
Right. Other than, I mean, being in the car business for so many years, I really don't have a favorite car per se, but I do like that. I guess because I'm in the car business, I really enjoy boats. And so I can get very passionate about a boat. I can only get so passionate about a car.
It's funny. I feel like being in the car business, I love all the cars, like for different reasons. I don't just love one. There's just so many of them.
There's a lot to choose from.
It's amazing. Well, thank you for joining me on the show. I think a lot of people are going to value so much information you provided. And if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Social media, of course. You can go through my website, bettervantagepoint.com, or my email address is tomk, as in Tom Kline, tomk@bettervantagepoint.com.
Awesome. Yeah, if anyone has questions for Tom, please reach out. And he's always providing, information, putting out articles about, things that you guys should be looking at. So thank you, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Kaylee. It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Parts Edge, the power tool for your parts department. We hope you're leaving feeling motivated, challenged, and inspired.